What's going on, everybody? We are here with episode number 12 of the Club and Sub podcast. This week, Whittaker Hill. We're going to skip the recap just because, 15 fight card is a little untenable. So, yeah, we're going to get right into it. First fight on the docket is Wood Castaneda. Don't have a huge opinion here myself. I didn't really look at Castaneda very much. Guessing Woods is going to take over this fight. But Luke, I know you did a little bit of research here. I'll throw it to you.
Yeah, so this is actually a fight I'm considering a play on, not from a straight perspective, but I'm potentially looking to target the under 2.5 rounds here. Currently sits at -125. I believe through my number crunching, roughly the under 2.5 hits at about 50%. I'm sorry, 60% for both of these guys. So I'd like a little bit better edge than -125. I'd like to get a little closer to 10% here. But I think this Castaneda guy, he's not the greatest in the world. And I'm always like super, super skeptical about these combate guys coming in because he actually has a pretty decent record, but the level of competition in the promotion is just not great historically. So I do think this is a spot that Wood should definitely win. I think he's pretty much better everywhere here. But I think it's also one of these cases where, if Wood takes a guy like Castaneda lightly, I think the fight could play a little bit closer than odds indicate. And the thing with Wood that I've always had a little bit of an issue with, I do think he's a great prospect, as the nickname indicates. I bet him against Dotson. But the guys, it's kind of similar actually to Shabazian in some sense where, he's got some pretty fluid striking, but the dude's pretty hittable at the same time. I've seen him get into a lot of firefights that he doesn't necessarily need to be in. And because of that, he's gotten in some trouble. So, but largely the guy's shown pretty decent fight IQ. I think his striking is good enough where if he fights smart, fights technical, fights long, fights from the outside, mixes in his wrestling, obviously has a good submission game, he probably should definitely roll in this spot. And yeah, I definitely think there's a finish possibility from potentially both guys. Like I said, if he doesn't get that, or if he doesn't give Castaneda the proper respect, you never know about that flash KO. But I think a KO or a sub from Wood is very live here. So I'm potentially looking to target that under 2.5, but just looking for a little bit better of a price.
Yep, makes sense. Thanks, Luke. Lags, you got anything here?
It's a pass for me. I'm pretty much mimic everything that Luke says. I mean, I think Wood should roll here in the spot, but I wouldn't be looking to parlay Wood at this kind of chalk. I would just pass, and that's it for me.
See, how about you? See? All right. C's frozen, so we'll move on here. Next fight up, we have, I believe it's Ronson Ameev against
Nicholas Stoltz.
Nicholas Stoltz, that's his name. That's right. Yeah, I looked briefly at this. It's a huge line. I don't really have a ton of interest in playing Ameev, but he's probably going to win. If I was more inclined to play parlays, I guess I would feel pretty comfortable parlaying him, but not really my thing. They haven't been very kind to me historically. So, but yeah, I think Ameev should win here. He's probably better everywhere. Like, honestly, should be better on the feet, but if worse comes to worse, can probably just, wrestle him to death. Luke, how about you?
Yeah, so I didn't really dig too deep into this fight, largely because I couldn't find three of 6 of Stoltzy's most recent fights. So if that's the case, for a guy I really don't know anything about, I really want to have those most recent fights available to tape, and I just couldn't find that. And with this being a 15 fight card, and we got cards coming weeks on weeks and weeks, we got the Contender Series starting. This is one I kind of passed over. I did have a bet on Ameev over Shavkat Rakhmonov in their last fight, or their originally scheduled bout that got canceled. A pretty decently sized play, but so I'm kind of bummed that one got canceled. But yeah, since I didn't really do any homework on Stoltzy, I guess I can't say anything strong, but Ameev's solid. He's legit. So whether the line is justified or right or not, I guess I can't give a strong opinion, but he should probably get the W here.
Lags, how about you?
Yeah, I guess we'll go 2 for 2 here. I also had have a similar opinion to Luke. I did have a bet on Ronson Ameev in the original fight against Shakvat. I guess that's how you pronounce his name. But it's passed for me here. I mean, I think Ameev gets the job done as well as Wood, but I'm not going to play the chalk.
See?
Yeah, I had a I was on Ameev the first time. I thought that was a very difficult matchup for him. I actually maxed out Ameev there. Not doing. I mean, there's just too much juice to lay here, but this is actually a really, really simple, easy fight for Ameev here. Probably should be like minus 800 ish. Yeah, I mean, he's just better everywhere. I watched some of this dude Stoltzy or whatever the fuck his last name is. Yeah, he pretty much sucks. He has he has like a decent, I guess, kicking game, but outside of that, he's pretty shit. Kind of a shit grappler. Gets hit a lot. Yeah, I'm actually I got a little bit on Ameev inside the distance.
All right, so we move on to, well, I don't know if I'd call it a good fight, but I think it's one that I've seen a lot of action in the community on, and it's Kianzad against Correa. See, I know you have a play here. What do you got?
What fight are we talking about?
It's Correa and Kianzad.
Oh, yeah, I played Kianzad for like 2.6 units at minus 130. I don't want to spend like a whole bunch of time on this. I know everybody on Twitter is kind of on the same side of me, so I don't know. I generally don't like that all that much, but yeah, I mean, look, she's younger. She's got clean boxing. I should say cleaner boxing. I think she's just a little bit more fluid, and is a little bit more accurate. But yeah, I mean, I guess I don't have a problem if you're playing Beth. I mean, I think she's like 37 or something. I mean, at some point,
she's old.
Yeah, I mean, she's historically been pretty durable, but yeah, I mean, at that age and women's MMA, I mean, there's not a whole bunch of upside there. I can see why people are just like kind of, I guess, the lines starting to just remain flat. I guess at like 150. Yeah, I mean, I kind of saw her like right around there. So at one, I think when I got her minus 130, kind of thought she should be like 186 ish. So yeah, no real problem there. I mean, I'm not going like crazy or anything. There's still definitely, I mean, Beth's fought legit competition. So, it is what it is. I think she's the better boxer though, cleaner in the pocket. So we'll see.
Yeah, so I haven't made a play here yet. I'm actually considering a play on Beth, though. If she gets to like 150, I think her best price right now is, well, Bet DSI is hanging her plus 162, so which is pretty surprising, and they're hanging Kianzad minus 196. So pretty much free money if anybody wants to arb dimes and Bet DSI. But anyway, yeah, so basically, like, I agree with pretty much everything you said, C, and like if Beth fights this in like boxing range for 15 minutes, I think she's probably going to get pieced up. But, she does a decent job coming forward. She's always been pretty durable throughout her career. And, like, ultimately, for me, it's like Beth's been fighting, great competition, losing mostly, but, like, she's been competitive with Irene Aldana. She beat Ciara in her last fight. Generally puts out a pretty good output here. Generally out attempts her opponents at distance. And so it's like, I do think, like everything you said about Kansas technique's a lot cleaner than Beth's. I just, in a fight that's almost certainly not going to finish, where you're going to have two girls landing a ton of volume, it's like, and Kansas really hasn't. I mean, Jessica Rose Clark, I think Beth would probably beat pretty easily as well. I just kind of think almost lean dog. Like I slightly lean Kansas, but I think 150 is probably enough for me to take the plunge there. Luke, what do you got?
So I'm kind of in the similar a similar boat as you here, John. Kianzad's a girl who I think I've almost overvalued in a certain sense. I thought her ceiling would be a lot higher, or I should say, I thought she would do a lot better than she has historically. Granted, she's only 28, so a lot of improvements can be made there. But you guys kind of touched on it. I do think, in terms of technical striking and boxing, she's probably better than Betch, but I guess my big thing here is too, obviously, I think the strength of competition does need to be factored in, as you touched on too, John, that she's been really competitive in a lot of fights, and all these, a large majority of the girls she's fighting have been top 10 girls. So I think, in my opinion, this is probably her biggest step down in 5 years, probably. And you touched on it too, John, where I think this is largely going to be, a competitive striking exchange in the middle, where I did give a slight lean to Kianzad in terms of capping. I capped her minus 122 here. But yeah, so I guess I don't necessarily see as much of the love for Kianzad as a lot of people do, because I really just see this being that like really close pocket exchange, gritty back and forth type of fight, potentially split decision kind of fight. And so I think kind of the narrative, at least for people who are backing Kianzad, is that, largely where she struggled has been in the grappling and the defensive wrestling or getting stuck against the cage. And so I think people are thinking that, all right, well, Betch isn't a strong grappler. We haven't seen a ton of cage time from her. We haven't seen her really attempt many takedowns. So essentially that's going to give Panny what she needs to do in space to win the fight. And I largely agree with that, but to counter that at the same time, as I touched on, she's been competitive with high volume output, solid strikers and girls like Irina Aldana too. So I don't really know where Panny's at necessarily right now. So I don't really understand the confidence on Kianzad here. It's definitely dog or pass. Plus 150 is my consideration number on Betch, because I think it's just going to be a really close fight. So if I can get a 10% edge there, I might be taking the plunge, but yeah, that's just me.
Yeah, I agree, Luke. You got anything for us, Lex?
I'll be honest, I'm not going to add much onto this one. Betch is clearly a spot the better competition, but I don't want any of my money on this dumpster fire. I think it's going to be a close decision that just screams like I just don't want any part of
but
this.
Legs, if it's a close decision, why not take plus 150?
See, that's the thing. See, that's a thing I guess we'll touch on that I've seen a lot on Twitter. Just because a fight goes to decision doesn't mean that there was value on the dog. So I guess we'll get later on the fight with Evloev and Grundy. If that fight ends up going to decision, you think that goes to a decision, that doesn't mean that there's value on Grundy.
Yeah, but if Betch makes it a scrappy fight though, shouldn't it be minus 110, minus 110 though, if that's the case?
Right.
Luke coming out hot right now.
I'm saying, no, honestly, that's just my take. I don't know.
No, listen, I just don't really rate either of these girls very highly.
Shots
so
fired.
I just can't put any money on it.
Quinn, how about you? Any opinion on this fight before we move on?
Dog or pass. That's it. Dog or pass.
All right, so we move on to Tanner Bozer, Rafael Pessoa. Lags, you got anything here?
Yeah, so I actually picked up a parlay with Tanner Bozer at minus 250. So I think that I don't think Pessoa is very good at all, to be honest. MMA whisperer, WMMA whisperer. But yeah, so Pessoa doesn't really set up his leg kicks very well. He does a lot of spinning shit that doesn't really land, and it just ends up gassing him out. And honestly, like I touched on earlier, I don't rate him very highly. I think the win over Jeff Hughes isn't really saying much, considering Jeff Hughes got outstruck by Maurice Green. I mean, if you're getting outstruck by Maurice Green, I don't really think you belong in the UFC. So, I mean, I think just Bozer is going to be the faster, lighter guy on the feet, and he's going to have around a 20-pound advantage here. And I like his confidence. I listened to Ariel Helwani, the show today, and Bozer looks focused, ready to go.
See, you got anything here?
I have zero interest in this. Yeah, pass.
Quinn?
Yeah, same with Lags. I don't have a play here, but I'm definitely leaning Bozer. I just don't know if I want to pay the price for his line. But Pessoa, like this, the guy is absolutely awful. He's extremely low volume. He doesn't really set up anything. He can't wrestle at all. Like Lags said, he throws a bunch of spinning stuff. His striking accuracy is absolutely god awful. I mean, Bozer's just gonna he's just gonna walk him down. He's gonna chop his legs down. He's a much better boxer here. He's just the all-round way better fighter than Pessoa. Like I don't even really know why Pessoa's in the UFC. I mean, outside of just being a really really big dude, I don't really think Pessoa is that talented. I mean, here he's probably KO or bust. I mean, Bozer's gonna just really out-volume in here. I mean, I don't know if Bozer's going to get the knockout. I mean, I've kind of seen that all over Twitter. Is like, oh, we're going to play this KO prop, which he did KO Felipe Lins last week, which was that was a great win. But he's notoriously not really a finisher. So I think if you're going to play anything, maybe Bozer decision would be a good line. If you really like Bozer, you could throw him in a parlay. But I don't understand how anyone is really betting Passoza here unless you're going to bet him by like fluke KO. So my pick is definitely going to be Bozer by decision.
Yeah, you kind of took the words out of my mouth there, Quinn. I haven't played it yet. I've been thinking about Bozer by decision. Similar to your point, like if you actually, I think that Lynn's KO was only Bozer's third of his career, and I think one of the other ones was via leg kicks. And if you actually look at Lynn's got flatlined twice in Bellator and got wobbled a couple times in PFL, which is a pretty awful heavyweight division, if we're being honest. And so it's like I'm more inclined to chalk that knockout up to Lynn's chin than Bozer suddenly developing some kind of a power striking game. And so it's like I do think you can maybe get some value on like round 3 KO, and maybe he leg kicks Pessoa to death. Because I don't think Pessoa is going to have any answer for it. But yeah, if I was going to play it, I'd play Bozer decision. I don't know. I don't have a strong read on it. He's definitely better, but also it's kind of like these guys doing fast turnarounds so far. It hasn't worked out at a very high clip, and obviously times are weird right now. So it's just something probably going to avoid it. But yeah, Luke, how about you?
Yeah, so I'll preface by saying I've never been fully in Camp Bozer. I do think it's encouraging, that in a certain sense that the guy's able to go out there and win fights consistently, at least on the cards. But I've also seen him lose a lot of fights on the cards too, and that kind of just speaks credence to him not being very high volume. A lot of these heavyweight guys are out here starching guys, and that's kind of really their only win condition. So it is encouraging that the guy can win on the cards, but that volume and largely in the aggregate, the lack of finishing ability from him, despite his last nice KO, as Quinn touched on. He's largely not a finisher. And in terms of his striking, he kind of just drops his head and wings big hooks. Obviously, the guy stays on the outside, kicks like a truck. But to be honest, I just feel like there's a KO waiting for Bozer in his future coming his way, just based on his style. I don't think that this is the spot. I think Pessoa's pretty bad, as you guys touched on. Like any heavyweight that's throwing like really high energy moves like that, spinning hook kicks, it's very low percentage, very high energy consumption there. It's just that just shows poor fight IQ just right off the top for me personally. And then the guy's not great anywhere. I think he's I think he might be a black belt, but
he is, yeah.
But I would highly question that, given how easily he gave up that sub to Gon. Like he literally got down and if you watch that fight, he was like essentially, without audibly saying it, I'm done. Like he just gave up. Yeah. He got down. He said, I want no part of it. I'm done. So I don't think this Pessoa guy is necessarily UFC material, but it's one of those spots where I think the fight could play a little bit closer than odds indicate. I'm not running to the window to bet Bozer over -2-1. This fight's the definition of a pass for me.
And next up, I got my first play of the evening, and it's going to be Movsar Evloev against Mike Grundy. I played Evloev for about 1.5 units, -185. Pretty much just kind of think, first of all, I think Evloev's actually a better wrestler than Grundy. It's kind of funny, just a quick tangent, that, one of the reasons I, played Narimani against Dawson last week was kind of the way he held up in the grappling against Grundy. And against on the CW regional scene, which was pretty stupid in and of itself. But, we saw what happened to Narimani when he fought like a real, MMA wrestler who like knows how to, do stuff like shut down underhooks in Dawson. And not that Grundy's a bad wrestler, but I haven't seen much that makes me think he's a great one. Whereas Evloev, I think, is very good. Again, like he's not like on the level of like, Khabib or Islam or any of these other Russian guys. But I do think Evloev can have success with it. And even if he can't, the guy basically throws, nonstop on the feet. Like you look at, I think he attempted like 230 strikes or something against Barzola. And I've seen people say like he's hittable, but like, yeah, I know he got tagged against Barzola a few times. But Barzola also, I think he defended strikes at something like 68%. Barzola was throwing a lot too. So, I mean, he was going to get hit. And, on the other side of the octagon, you have Grundy, who basically, there's limited footage of him at distance because of how easily he was able to kind of manhandle guys in Britain. But he hasn't really thrown at all. He got doubled up on attempts by Narimani before he put him out. And I've kind of seen this, like, maybe it's not narrative, like maybe Grundy does have plus power, but I don't think we can say that with like any degree of certainty. Like, he knocked out Narimani, but Narimani's always been kind of a little chinny and always had his shin like straight up in the air. And it's not like he put him out like, straight out cold. And so it's like, I guess Grundy could knock out Evloev, but Evloev's done a pretty good job like wearing punches so far and like what I've seen. And so, like, I don't think that's a high percentage outcome. And I really do think that unless Grundy can hurt him multiple times, Evloev's just going to absolutely rip him apart on volume here. So, like, I have Evloev around 70% myself. Could maybe even be higher if it proves he has a bigger advantage than I think in the grappling. But, yeah, that's my play. What do you got, Luke?
Yeah, so you pretty much hit the nail on the head. That's essentially verbatim what my breakdown is as well. I played 2 units on Evloev at minus 185. The thing with Grundy is, he's just largely kind of like a one and done kind of guy at space in the limited times we've seen. He's not high volume. He is accurate with his strikes. I'll give him that. And he obviously dropped Nad and knocked him out, as you touched on. But I mean, largely, if you go back and look at kind of his regional scene fights, guys have just posed absolutely zero takedown defense. Like, he's been able to get takedowns so easily, pass guard, hop to side control, step over to mount, step over to the arm triangle. Like, he's faced just essentially no resistance in a guy in Movsar Evloev who's very, very good. I think this is by far the biggest step up that Grundy's getting. I guess my only concern here is the fact that Evloev has fought a lot at 135 pounds and he's moving up to 145. And there is no way Mike Grundy is making 135 pounds. He's a 145 pound fighter through and through. So in terms of like, if they get into these clinch battles, I guess the strength is something that irk me a little bit, or where maybe Mike Grundy might be able to have a little bit more success in terms of that than I'm thinking. But largely in terms of Evloev, anytime anybody's been really able to get on him, he has been taken down a few times, but he does a really good job of being cognizant of digging underhooks and getting his hips away from the fence and turning off, or, well, I should say the ropes, because he's been fighting at M1 the whole time pretty much. But I just think this is really a spot where Evloev should roll. I think Grundy might be just a little bit overrated. He's one-dimensional in a guy, and Evloev is a guy who I think can expose that kind of one-dimensional nature of Mike Grundy, and people might be giving a little bit more credence than they should to that recent knockout. So I think at minus 185, we're getting a pretty good price.
Yeah, I completely agree, Luke. Lags, you have any opinion here?
I'll be honest, this is one I definitely haven't looked a lot into, just because I want to spend way more time into this, because I think that a lot more Grundy money is going to be coming in, and I'd rather wait on a better line for Evloev. But as you guys touched on, I think Evloev is the better wrestler. I think overall he's just the better MMA fighter. So I think that, like I touched on earlier, I think he's going to win a decision here, and I think it's going to be a close fight. But like I said, if it goes to a decision, that doesn't mean that there was value on the dog. So I'll probably end up being on Evloev if the line gets a little shorter, but right now it's a pass.
See, how about you?
Yeah, I'm not gonna spend too much time on this. I don't have anything. You guys got a good line, 185. That would have been a good line. Honestly, minus 200 is probably a fine line too. Yeah, I mean, he has a monster upside, I guess, in terms of volume. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of going to be hard for Grundy to really win a decision here. Even though there's Grundy could get takedowns, I guess. But yeah, he's not going to control him or anything. So yeah, it kind of just comes down to like in terms of the stand up, like, is Grundy going to land a nuke, or is he going to land like the more powerful shots? So yeah, I don't have any problem backing Evloev here. But yeah, I kind of want like 185 that you got, or like 175 ish. So just going to kind of monitor that line.
Quinn, how about you?
Yeah, I wanted a kind of a closer line on this fight. I mean, we had talked in the group chat, and I think Grundy is, I think this fight's going to mainly play it on the feet. I mean, I think their wrestling is going to neutralize each other. Evloev might go for a few takedowns here and there in between just to keep him honest, but I really do think that this fight's going to play it on the feet. And while Grundy might be KO or bust here. I am going to play contrarian, and I do think that he could possibly touch Evloev's chin here. I mean, in that third round against Barzola was winning pretty much every striking exchange, if I remember correctly. Like he was landing on him pretty heavily. And like Luke said, Grundy's pretty accurate with the shots. I mean, he really impressed me versus Nad. So if this plays out on the feet for like 12 to 15 minutes, like I definitely, you got to give Grundy a chance here. I mean, Evloev is, he's very high volume, but he's in my opinion, he's pretty damn hittable. And Grundy does have power. He's a lot, he's bigger than Evloev too. So the pick here is going to be Evloev. I kind of wanted like minus 170 to play him. So I definitely had a chance to hit that minus 185 line, but I was kind of like, there's probably better spots on this card. I do think Evloev wins here, but like I just would not be surprised if Grundy hit that KO shot. So maybe if you're gonna play anything, maybe Evloev by decision. But yeah, other than that, I really do think Evloev gets this win here. So my pick is going to be Evloev by decision.
All right. So next up, we have. Does anybody have money on this? Jake Collier, Tom Aspinall. Bit of a shit show here at heavyweight.
No.
I was thinking about playing the under 2.5, but they released it at 1.5. So I was like, and I don't play under 1.5. So, but no.
Yeah. So I take
You don't play them ever?
No, it's just like a cardinal rule. I never play under.
Even when Hannah Cyphers is fighting?
I did make a big bet on Agapova there, but and didn't play the under 2.5. Yeah, fuck me there.
I take this a bit, and it's like everybody is raving about Tom Aspinall. Like, oh my god, he like boxed with Tyson Fury. Wow, he trains out of Till's camp. Like, he can wrestle. He's got jiu-jitsu. And there's like nothing in the tape that I've seen that's like impressive. Like, he throws straight punches, but I wouldn't say he's a world-class boxer. Like, he's an okay wrestler for heavyweight. His control seems pretty up and down, like pretty whatever. And it's like, he got heel hooked in one of the ugliest sequences I've ever seen. I think Warriors about 5 years ago. So it's like, I don't know how serious it was pretty. Like, he went from being in complete dominant position to somehow getting healed. It was bizarre. So it's like, and so I looked at Collier, and it's like, I really want to play Jay Collier, except he hasn't fought in 3 years. He used to fight at middleweight, and he's coming up to heavyweight. Like, he could just easily get completely blown out of the water here. But like, I do think if like he makes heavyweight okay, it isn't just like volanteing it, like he could probably provide a decent amount of resistance in the grappling. We haven't really seen Aspinall's gas tank get tested all that much. So I do sort of think it's like one of those fights where it's like a pretty decent live bet opportunity, like especially if round one is like not a complete dumpstering of Collier and it's at least marginally competitive. It might be worth just like sprinklings. You'll probably get a good number. But yeah, I don't really see the hype behind Aspinall. Maybe he'll prove me wrong. Obviously, he hasn't fought that much, so he's probably making big strides. But yeah, I don't understand laying over minus 200 with him. Luke, what about you?
Yeah, so I think you pretty much hit the nail on the head. It's one of these fights that I actually put in my 3 Not For Me article this week. There are so many question marks on this fight where I just don't know how you could confidently lay your money either way. I mean, a gun to your head, if you're to bet this fight, it has to be the dog at plus money because, he is a guy who has, I think, had 6 UFC fights. He's a little bit more battle tested where I'm so vocal about this all the time. Aspinall is a guy who has just ran through everybody. And you touched on it too, John, where even in that last fight 5 years ago where he was winning in the grappling, he got easily swept and the guy just grabbed his heel and he tapped like immediately. Obviously 5 years ago, maybe he wasn't a black belt, but you assume at a very minimum a purple belt, if not a brown belt. Like, I highly question this guy's grappling credentials. And so anybody
shattered his leg on the first kick he threw. Like, the guy isn't having real fights.
Yeah, like he's beating complete jobbers. You want to talk about like someone who has an absolutely padded record and who has beaten absolutely nobody, who's faced no adversity, and then you're going to go lay over minus 2 to 1 on that guy. Like you said, John, like maybe he wins here, but if we're talking long term that is not a good bet at all, because you're really just throwing your money up in the air and hoping it falls on the right side. But at the same time, I would not say run to the window to bet Collier, because, I mean, like, as you touched on, the guy's going up to heavyweight now. He did pop for USADA, on USADA, and it was a diuretic. So I think that's kind of an interesting narrative here too, that now he's fighting at heavyweight when he popped for something that was helping him cut weight.
Yeah.
So if that had anything to play with it at all, like I obviously he's a big guy, but I don't think he's kind of like one of those lankier, longer guys. He probably doesn't need to be at heavyweight. So I tried to take a peek at the guy's Instagram. I couldn't find anything, or even if it was the right Instagram, to be completely honest. But like, yeah, I'll shut up. But there's just too many question marks on this fight. I would stay away completely.
I couldn't agree more. Legs, you have anything here?
No, just like a DX touch and shot. This is basically a 12 fight card, not for me. So this is a pass, huge pass.
See,
Pass.
Quinn.
It's a definite pass fight for me. I'm not laying like Luke said, I'm not laying 2-1 on whatever that guy's name is, and I'm not running out of the gate to play this Collier guy. I'm not really impressed with either one of them, to be honest with you. I mean, a good friend of mine wrote me and early in the week, and he was like, "Oh, check out Aspinall. I mean, I got to play on him, blah blah blah." And so I checked him out. I don't know, man. That him getting heel hooked there, that was just really not a good look. So I mean, I think he wins Aspinall, but yeah, you can't lay real money on this fight at all, in my opinion. So it's a pass for me.
Agreed. And we move to perhaps the people's main event. Nicholas Garvey against Jesse the Body Snatcher Ronson, making his return to the octagon. C, I know you have a play here. What do you got for me?
He's frozen.
I see.
Oh, there he is. He's good.
You hear me?
Yeah, I played Ronson for 2 units at plus 225, and I think a little bit of plus 230. Yeah, I mean, mostly, I guess, like, thought process here is that this is probably going to decision more times than not. Ronson's pretty durable. Dalby doesn't really have, like, too big of finishing upside. On the feet, I think it's pretty competitive. Ronson's got, like, decent takedown defense, solid get-ups. He's better in the clinch. Yeah, I mean, I just kind of see this as more of like a coin flip than anything else. So yeah, taking the plus 230 side here is pretty easy for me. I mean, in terms of just like how I kind of see this going down. I guess the only reason I'm not going like a little bit heavier is there are like some things with like Ronson, I guess, in terms of like training and like the middle of coronavirus, all these other things where I just like don't want like tons of exposure. But yeah, I mean, it's probably just going to be like a gross split decision that just like fucking lose. But yeah, going to take the value here.
Quinn, how about you?
Yeah, I think you guys got really good value on Ronson here. I haven't played it yet because I haven't really I haven't taped it a whole lot, but I do remember Ronson in PFL, and he did pretty well. I mean, I rate Natan Schultz pretty damn high. I mean, that guy he's a pure talent, and Ronson, like, he stuck in there with him and gave him a pretty good run for his money here. I mean, and like looking over the stats, I mean, like they're both pretty even as with the striking. So like with here, I mean, you got to pick Ronson as the 2-1 dog. I mean, I don't know how you can lay like the money down on Dalby here at all. Unless Dalby like turns into a wrestler and just goes for like a massive amount of takedowns. I don't really I see it being like really, really close. Like C said, going to a split. I have to do a little bit more tape on this fight, but yeah, I think you guys have a pretty good lean here on Ronson. I mean, I am personally just never really been that high on Dalby at all. I don't think I've ever bet him, to be honest with you. So yeah, I think the value is 100% a dagger pass. So
Legs?
Pass for me.
Yeah, so I also bet Ronson 1 unit plus 245. Agree mostly with what C said. Pretty much like if you actually watch his fight with Schulte, I think he lands something like 75, 80 strikes in that fight, and that's with being taken down 12 times across the course of the fight. Like the guy pumps serious volume. He's pretty good at getting up from takedowns. His 3 UFC fights, not this time. I'm sure you hear this on every preview show this week, but we're against, Trinaldo, Priscila, and Lee, and there were 3 split decisions. He got taken down a bunch of times, he kept popping up. And like for Nick Dalby to justify being like a minus 260 favorite here, he pretty much has to come out and land 10 to 12 takedowns. Like that's like, or not 10 to 12 takedowns, attempt like 10 to 12 takedowns. Because I don't think he can hold Ronson down. And for his career, he only attempts 3. And like Dalby at range is fine. Like fine is pretty much how I would just describe Nick Dalby in a nutshell. Like he's not bad really at anything, but he's really not particularly good at anything either. And so it's like, maybe Ronson coming up to 170 and he can just abuse him in the clinch. But Ronson's a pretty big 55er, so like I don't think that's going to be a huge issue. And so yeah, ultimately I just kind of think exactly what he does. It's going to be a pretty close fight, pretty close to even. As long as he doesn't get stuck on the cage, I kind of trust Ronson to throw more volume here. I actually think he might have a power edge too. So yeah, I only put 1 unit on it. Thinking about maybe playing decision also. It's like it was like plus 600. I'm not sure where it's sitting right now for Ronson, but maybe throw like a half unit on that. I haven't decided yet. But yeah, I do think, this line's pretty out of whack. Luke, how about you?
So definitely not to play contrarian, but I am picking Nick Dalby here. I'm not personally playing this fight. I guess my big thing here is that I think, Dalby is a guy who's kind of traditionally a slow starter, and he's largely been able to kind of outpace guys over the course of 3 rounds. And in Ronson, he's just a guy who like overtly doesn't impress me. I think he's very well rounded. He's like he's a guy who falls to me in like the very serviceable category. Yeah. Like he's not going to go out there and win any world titles, but he's going to go out there and be competitive. He's going to throw strikes. He's going to mix in his grappling. You're going to get some good exchanges in both. So I'm definitely not hating on the play on Ronson at plus 225 or even at your line plus 245. That's a really great number, John. I don't hate it at all, but this one's just kind of a pass for me because I think Ronson can get stuck on the cage here, and I think Dalby does have the better striking, at least at space. And I think, honestly, Dalby's having a little bit of a late career resurgence. I know there's been certain moments, in his most recent fights where, he's actually been controlled and out-grappled too, and he's been outstruck, but then he's also kind of been able to do the same thing to other guys as well. So I don't hate the play on Ronson. That's definitely the value side here. But I think Dalby definitely does enough here. I think he checks enough boxes here to probably win this fight at least 2 out of every 3 times they fight. So for me, it's a pass. I'm picking Dalby, but I think the value definitely is on Jesse.
And then, John, real quick to touch on so I'm on FanDuel right now, and Ronson by points is plus 440.
Oh, shit. So that's not.
So, yeah.
I still might stab it, to be honest, because I don't, Dalby's pretty famous.
Ronson by KO plus 950.
Yeah, I mean, Dalby's that.
Yeah.
Dalby's got like a weird chin, though. That's
right. Yeah, no. Yeah.
Probably his best quality. So we move on and we go to – this is a fun one. We got Francisco Mascarenduba Trinaldo and it's Jai, the Black Country Banger Herbert. That is some nickname.
That's a hell of a nickname.
It's
right up there with the white Mike Tyson.
Yeah. You have a play here, right? Do you want to go first?
Yep. So I played this fight, not a side, but 2 units on the over 2.5 rounds at minus 170. And so largely my thinking here is that anytime you have a guy that comes into the UFC who's just largely running through guys and, really hasn't been tested, at least over distance, or I should say the duration of fights, that always just raises red flags for me because I don't have any numbers available, but I've just seen historically where these guys come in and they start running through guys and, they get a durable vetter, they get a battle-tested guy, and either, they might win the fight, but, they're not sitting there running through the guy at all either. And I think Trinaldo is just a shining example of that. He's a guy who's been around for forever. He's been very difficult to finish. He fights very smart. Trinaldo's not a guy who you see with poor fight IQ. The dude's fought literally the same way his entire career and has made a career out of it. I think he's 15-6 in the UFC. He's fought some of the best out there. And so my reasoning of not necessarily backing Trinaldo here is largely based on the fact that he is 41 now. I believe that drop-off point is coming at some point, even though I don't think even in recent fights he's shown that he's really slowed down. He's gotten hit a little bit more than he has historically, but to me, he's always been the same Trinaldo, even within the last couple of years at 39, 40, and 41. He's still looking pretty strong to me. But Herbert does come with a decent amount of volume. He obviously does have some power. So I just don't really like a side because essentially I know the line recently dropped on Trinaldo to I think -150, -140. But at least when I made the bet, it was about -170 Trinaldo in and of himself. So I think the over is a really good bet here, just because I think even with Herbert coming in with high volume, I think Trinaldo's going to get I think Herbert is going to get the respect of Trinaldo pretty early. He's going to land those counter shots, and he's not going to be coming forward in those flurries that he usually does. So I think he really slows the fight down. Trinaldo's takedown defense has been proven to be excellent. I think Trinaldo can have some success in the grappling here. So it is kind of a little disconcerting that I think that maybe Herbert could get KO'd. He could get subbed here, but largely from what we've seen from Trinaldo, that's just not the case. So I think it's just going to be a really slow-paced fight where Trinaldo's just going to be able to put the bet lesson on him, outclass him, and win a decision. So, but at the same time, like I said, Herbert does have that volume. How the judges score that at all, if that plays any sort of a factor, maybe Herbert does kind of the James Vick thing to him, fights long, utilizes the teep, just stays on the outside. I personally don't see it, but instead of backing aside, I'd rather take the over here, and I think it's kind of a sneaky good play for the card.
C, you got a player?
I think he might be out.
Quinn?
Yeah, so if this Trinaldo line keeps going lower and getting ridiculous, I'm going to have to play on Trinaldo. I was not impressed with Herbert from what I saw on tape. I saw him get grapple fucked in multiple fights. I saw him get mounted. I saw him get his back taken. The guy can't defend a takedown at all. It's really it was really sad. He's got a decent 1-2. He's aggressive. He's long. He's going to have a 7-inch reach advantage here. But Trinaldo, he's a master of the game. He's been around for a long time. And like Luke said, he's very, very good at slowing fights down and making fighters fight at his pace. And I just, I don't really trust Herbert's gas tank here. I don't trust his grappling. I do think that, and Trinaldo, he lands takedowns in most of his fights. And I would like to see him actually grapple a little bit more here, because I really don't think that Herbert has the ground game to compete with these higher level fighters. If he beats Trinaldo, he's going to get someone else that's probably going to be able to exploit that. So yeah, I've got Trinaldo here all day. I love that overprice. I do think Trinaldo can maybe touch Herbert's chin. I really don't trust his chin that much. But I do like that overprice. But if Trinaldo gets down to -130, which he's at -140 right now, I don't know. I might have to just take a stab on that. I also, fighters lose it 70% of their UFC debut. So yeah, just all the signs to me just really point to Trinaldo really taking this one. So I'm gonna monitor the line here. But yeah, I really like Trinaldo here. I'm not that high on Herbert at all. So I'm gonna go with Trinaldo by decision. And if he gets down to -130, I might put a unit on him.
Lex, how about you?
Yeah, similar to what Luke and Quinn both said, I like the over 2.5 here, and I like Trinaldo, but currently at -160, I'm not trying to late chalk with Trinaldo. And I know a lot of people are saying that Trinaldo, yeah, he's 41 years old, and he's maybe slowing down a little bit in these fights, but he's not like he's getting blasted in these fights. He's losing close decisions or winning these close decisions. And that's the only reason why I don't think I'm going to play the chalk if it's around, like I said, -160, -170, because I think it's going to be a close decision. So
yeah,
I'm just going to be monitoring the lines.
Yeah, so I played Trinaldo for 2 units, minus 155.
Nice.
Little surprised that it's coming in right now, to be honest. And so like so when I went into tape, I was kind of like, oh, Jai Herbert, that's pretty exciting. He's supposed to be a decent prospect. Then I found out he was 32. Then I looked at it, and it's like I guess I see the appeal. The guy seems like he's got a pretty sharp one too. He's got a bunch of finishes, but like that's really all he does. And like so, like the volume thing. And I'm gonna tie this back to the main event later in the show, but there's a difference between low volume on like raw stats and like actually being low volume getting outpaced. Trinaldo's a counterpuncher. Like he rarely gets outpaced. If you actually look, when guys have upped the pace on him, he's actually done a pretty good job matching or exceeding it. Like you take the Medeiros fight, for instance, he landed 117 significant strikes that fight because Medeiros fights like a fucking wild man, and he was just willing to throw the volume out there. And so it's like I said, there's a big difference between being outpaced and kind of letting your opponents dictate the fight and, counterpunching really. Like Yoel Romero is similar to that. Guys traditionally low volume, but he rarely gets outpaced badly. So that's one thing. So I think the volume thing is kind of not that accurate. And I also think he's just kind of a more well-rounded striker. Like Trinaldo's a legit kickboxer. He's got a lot more tools in the striking than Herbert has. And then the other part is, Quinn mentioned Trinaldo lands a takedown in most fights. I think Gugabe just said it in the chat before, but like if you watch Herbert on the mat, the dude is clueless, and he's getting grapple fucked by British wrestling bums like who are just taking him down and holding him there. Like Trinaldo's got a pretty solid top game. Like if there was if you told me for a fact Trinaldo attempted 6 takedowns here, this would be a much bigger bet for me just because like I think he could just win this fight easily that way. And so it's like, okay, the line's minus 140 now. I don't know if I'll play it again. Probably not unless it gets really crazy. But the only real question for me, like obviously Trinaldo can lose. You can always lose. Is kind of age. But even that, we saw him fight Makdessi 4 months ago. And, we had this conversation in chat a little while ago. But, like, I'd favor John Makdessi in a kickboxing match against Jai Herbert. Like, that's like – and Trinaldo, I think, was minus 190 in that fight with Makdessi, and now he's minus 150 with Herbert. Like that makes really no sense at all.
Why are people even playing Herbert? Like I don't understand. Like, do they think he can defend takedowns and outland him on the feet? I mean, I just really don't understand. I mean, someone just laid a bomb on him like an hour ago. I don't know. I just don't get it.
Well, and real quick too, Quinn. Like, who's really the last guy who's went out there and just put the pace on Francisco Trinaldo? Exactly. Like James Vick, even in beating Trinaldo there, he didn't go in there like put the pace on Trinaldo like at all. No, he fought at range and just he's 6'3" and has like a crazy reach. He actually just beat Trinaldo at his own game. But honestly, he's probably one of the only guys who's ever beaten Trinaldo at his own game. Nobody has ever went in there and put the pace on Francisco Trinaldo ever. Not once.
Yeah, I totally agree. C, do you have anything to say here?
Yeah. I mean, well, Herbert, I guess, has 7-inch reach here, but I don't really think it comes into play all that much. Herbert on the feet is just, I mean, he's kind of basic. He just really kind of just throws a jab cross. Don't really think he has much to his game on the feet. Honestly, it would be nice if there was somewhere like Cage Warriors compiled some stats. I think he misses a shit ton of strikes. I mean, he attempts a lot, but I have a feeling that like his strikes landed is like 30% maybe. Yeah. He really like kind of leaves his hand out there. Honestly, I just kind of think the guy looks more busier than he actually is. Like he does move his head and feints a lot. So like I tend to think people think that he has like a lot of volume, but I actually don't think he's like super high volume in terms of what he's landing. And I just think he looks busier than he really is. I mean, Trinaldo like minus 140 just doesn't even make logical sense. But
and can I make just one more quick point, John?
Yeah.
So like Gugabe just mentioned the Hernandez fight. Like if you watch Alexander Hernandez over the course of his career, the dude's coming out like a bat out of hell. What did he do against Trinaldo?
Yep, that's true.
I think they sat there and they stood and stared at each other for 3 rounds because he knew if he ran in there and tried to fight Trinaldo like that, Trinaldo was going to make him pay. So that's largely the reason for my bet here, is that this guy is just a different level. If you try to pull that crap against Trinaldo, he's going to put you in your place. So if Herbert tries that, maybe my over falls on its face and Trinaldo just like starches him and knocks him out. But if the guy watches any sort of tape, he should be a little bit more careful here. But that's actually a really good point from Gugabi.
Yeah, to be honest, that's kind of my biggest fear with Trinaldo here is like, if Herbert does get a little gun shy, then this turns into a clusterfuck of great. Now I'm flipping a coin on a favorite. I'm hoping that won't be the case, and Trinaldo showed a bit more pace against McDessie and a bit more.
Trinaldo's going to have that grappling upside too, though. I mean, so even if that happens, like he's going to go for a couple takedowns here.
I hope so.
At least we'd hope so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess to add real quick, last point. So Trinaldo right now by decision is plus 195.
I actually, Gugabe actually turned me on to this earlier today. I actually stabbed Trinaldo by sub plus 750 earlier.
That's a good line. Damn.
Yeah. And he got good jiu-jitsu. It's just he doesn't really ever look to use it. But yeah, it's just a little sprinkle.
I mean, you can pass Herbert's guards so easily. I mean, like it was pretty much effortless with those Cage Warriors fights. I mean, he got mounted by this trash can. I mean, yeah, that's a solid line. I might look at that.
So we move on now to, let's not spend too much time on this dumpster fire. Khamzat Chimaev, Reese McKee. Chimaev making his second fight in a week. Apparently he is the next Khabib. Literally the only thing I'd say on this, I watched a little tape on McKee. He should smash him. No doubt about that. I think people need to pump the brakes on a guy who battered John Phillips on the ground. We've seen other people do that. Maybe he will batter more people, but like the way this is trending is going to be him getting a top 15 guy in 2 fights and being minus 250 in a fight that should be even money, which I guess that's good for us. But I just like all the takes at Future Champ on Twitter. Like, I mean, I know people that could probably take down John Phillips, literally, who I've rolled with before. Like it's just ridiculous. Luke, do you have anything to add here?
Yeah, I'll just keep it real quick. I mean, you pretty much touched on it. Like, obviously, I think the guy has definitely some serious upside, but we see this bullshit on MMA Twitter all the time. The guy goes out there, makes his debut, puts on a great performance, and then falls off a fucking cliff. Not saying that that's going to happen to this guy necessarily, but how people are saying this like championship stuff or whatever by literally grinding out and beating the crap out of John Phillips. It's completely ridiculous. Minus 1,200. Like, I don't care. That line's ridiculous to me. It's not justified. I'm not telling you to take a stab on McKee. It's obviously definitely a pass, but it's just one of those we see. Yeah, we see this all the time. It happens so often where somebody comes in here and looks phenomenal. All the Twitter hype goes, all the internet hype goes, and then this guy's the second coming of Christ. So, well, probably not for him because he's a Muslim, but still, you guys know what I'm saying. So, definitely a pass. I'm curious to see who he gets next, but you made a great point. I'm like, he could draw like a really interesting style is just be crazy juiced, and you might be able to get a nice little dog price on somebody. Ultimately, the guy's only had 7 pro fights, so
I bet if you bought Mike Perry, I think Mike Perry would. I think he would be like a minus 250 over Mike Perry,
which is crazy. See, do you have anything?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Mike Perry would fight him.
Yeah. Well, Mike Perry at least is like, he's a reasonably competent defensive grappler, and I mean, I've seen nothing to make me think this guy would just go out there and maul Mike Perry. So,
right.
Yeah. Quinn, do you have anything to add here?
No.
Lags?
So pretty greasy giving this out, but I actually picked up on the Chimaev line on FanDuel at minus 490. So I had a 2-unit parlay with Chimaev at minus 490 and Tanner Bozer minus 254, minus 146. So, I mean, you guys pretty much touched on. McKee was knocked out 3 times on the regional scene by lesser opponents, and he's coming up on this fight on less than 6 days' notice. So, like I said, I don't think Chimaev is some future champion yet, but I think he's definitely a solid prospect for sure.
Yeah,
but I definitely, like we touched on earlier, sprinkling the dogs here. is definitely lighting money on fire. I'm not saying that the minus 1,200 is justified, but definitely playing the dog here is lighting money on fire. Save it for pizza.
I agree. So next up we have. So this is where the card gets a little bit more fun. We have Alex Oliveira, Peter Sabota. It's actually a pretty fun fight. Quinn, I know you have a play. You want to go for it?
Yes, I definitely do. This is like one of my favorite fights in the card. So I have a play on Sabota by sub at plus 850, and I'm actually monitoring his ML line. I would love to get a plus 160, plus 165 on him. And the public loves Alex Oliveira, so I think I'm definitely going to be able to get that line. Long story short, I actually went into this fight thinking that I would have a play on Alex Oliveira, and then I watched Sabota, and I was like, holy fuck, this dude is talented. I mean, he's a Dean Lister black belt, very, very high level on the ground. He has a decent double leg takedown. I think he's going to be able to get some top time here, and when he does, he's going to smash through Oliveira's guard. I mean, his pressure passing with his guard game is absolutely fantastic, in my opinion. I don't trust Alex's ground game. I mean, we've seen him quit so many times. We've seen him gas. We've seen him put himself into some really, really bad positions on the mat. And like Sabota, like he dominated Dalby on the mat. Like he absolutely dominated him. And he actually, and I watched the Leon Edwards fight, and he put Leon Edwards in some pretty bad spots. I mean, he made Leon work, and he actually vaguely took his back at one point in the fight. I mean, it was a pretty close fight up until Leon got the TKO on the mat. I just think that this line should be a lot closer, and like on the feet. I mean, Sabota's he's not even that bad on the feet. I mean, he has some decent boxing, and I watched his interview recently. I don't know, with MMA. I think it was with MMA Junkie, and he's been working with some pretty high level boxers, and like he had some injuries, but he's been training the entire time. And I watched his. I've seen some pictures recently of him, and he looks shredded. He looks ripped. He looks good to go. And yeah, like I just think he's gonna be able to get on top of Alex here and just really work him. And also like in the guard, like he's pretty active in the guard. Like he'll go for subs, he'll go for sweeps. Like I don't know like how high percentage he could guard sub him, but like Alex has been guard sub 3 different times in his UFC career, so it's really not out of the realm of possibility. I do think that Alex can land takedowns here, but I just don't get how you can trust Alex with all of his issues he's had going on in his personal life. He barely squeaked by Max Griffin in his last fight. So yeah, I'm really happy with the line. I think that plus 850 sub line is absolutely crazy. I mean, like Alex was beating Dalby he was beating Dalby up until like the last 2 minutes of the fight, and he like went for that armbar and just completely lost position. And like if he can't do that against Sabota here. I mean, Sabota's going to take advantage of that. So yeah, I really like that plus 850 sub line, and like I said, if he hits like plus 160, plus 170, I'm definitely going to take the plunge there. So I got Sabota by third round submission after Alex gasses and puts himself into a horrible spot. So yeah, Sabota by sub for me.
Legs, how about you?
Yeah, similar to what Quinn said, I've never really been high on Alex Oliveira. He has all the skills in the world, but he always just seems to give fight away. So he makes these fights way closer than they need to be. So from a side perspective, I really never play Alex Oliveira fights, but I'm definitely looking at the under 2.5 at plus 105. But just waiting for that line, maybe hopefully gets a little wider.
Yeah, I have no play. I looked at Sabota. I don't hate the play at all, Quinn, to be honest. It's just like Oliveira is like such a split personality, because there's times he shows up and looks like a world beater, and like he's definitely I'd say he's definitely the better martial artist all around than Sabota, like pretty unquestionably. And like Sabota, what?
Not on the mat.
No, but we're talking about mixed martial artist. I think he's definitely more well rounded, but like Sabota has a bad tendency to enter the pocket like completely wide open, and like righty lefty, like the power shot's going to be there if he comes in too quick. And so like that's a pretty big concern for me. And while Sabota's a better probably his better raw jiu-jitsu. Oliveira is definitely not really a slouch in the grappling. The real question is just like, will we get, a typical Oliveira quit job, or, a round and a half in, the guy just cardio dumps or has a gunner moment where he just makes a really bad decision and ends up mounted eating elbows. Like that's, I could never play Oliveira here. I just, I need the number to be like near plus 200 to play Sabota myself, just because I haven't seen enough from Sabota against like really high level opponents to trust him against Oliveira. Like, not like Oliveira is some kind of a superstar, but like I said, I think he brings upside to every fight, and it's not something I'd be really confident fading here. So yeah, I don't hate the play, Quinn. I definitely would not play Cowboy, as I said, but yeah, it's a pass for me. Luke, how about you?
Yeah, I'm pretty much right there with you, John. I don't really want much to do with this fight, because largely, I guess my big question is what kind of Cowboy Oliveira shows up. Because like you said, if the best Cowboy Oliveira shows up, I think he wins this fight at least a decent percentage of the time. But, if we get like stunt puller Oliveira, Sabota is obviously probably live. Quinn, you bring up a lot of good points too. But I mean, the guy's beating Nicholas Dalby and then, Ben Saunders. Like, he's just been so inactive. It's just one of those fights where I don't necessarily have a good read on. And I don't know necessarily where both guys are at least in terms of Oliveira. As I touched on, which Oliveira is going to show up. And, can you necessarily trust Sabota either? It's just one of those fights where I just don't really feel confident putting my money either side. So I'm going to pass. I personally think that Oliveira is going to find that shot at some point. Not a confident pick, but so my pick is Oliveira, but I don't want anything to do with this fight from a betting perspective personally.
See how about you?
Pass.
All right. Up next, we have ourselves a real exciting mess of a fight. We got Gadzhimurad Ontogulov against Paul the Bear Jew Craig. Lags, got anything for me here?
So like I touched on with Oliveira, Paul Craig is somebody that lately I want no interest in backing. His fights are way too close, they're way too greasy, and they're way too hairy. You can back Paul Craig at a plus 200 dog, but even money, I am not touching Paul Craig with a 10-foot pole. This is a complete pass. And if you want to lock the week, fight doesn't go the distance, minus 360.
Yeah. So
I'm not playing that.
This fight's so fucked, to be honest. Because if you would ask me, like gun to my head who I picked to win the fight, it's Craig without really a question, just because I don't think you can trust Ontogulov's gas tank. But I also kind of feel like if you have money on Craig, you are going to walk through the fire for like 4 minutes and then up in mount, waiting down like hell and looking to submit him. Like I tried to find an angle on Ontogulov. I was like, oh, maybe the cardio has been underrated. And then I found a couple of his old Russian fights on Russian YouTube. Cardio is really well and truly awful. And so it's like, I think you could justify, if it gets out at round one, a live bet on Craig. I mean, I think you could justify a bet on Craig as a dog. I really feel like there's like a pretty decent chance that Ontogulov's going to finish him in like the first round here. If you just compare their skill sets, I'd say Ontogulov is pretty clearly the better athlete and definitely has the better top game. And so it's like, yeah, like I said, it's pretty straightforward for me. Can Ontogulov get him out of there before he dies? Like, I don't really know. I don't really want to pay to find out. I will live bet Paul Craig, though, if he's still hanging in there come round two. Luke, how about you?
Yeah, nothing for me here. You guys want to talk about the definition of a pass fight? This is terrible. You cannot trust either of these guys with your money. I did say in my breakdown, though, like maybe I missed something in tape, or you guys really have a strong read one way or the another or another. But you have to be betting both of these guys inside the distance. If that's the case, whichever side you're on, you cannot be backing them straight. Take the bigger plus number inside the distance, gun to your head if you're betting this fight. But I actually do think this is one of the more winnable fights for Paul Craig in the recent years that he's facing. So I'm not betting Paul Craig personally. I'm 1-2-1 betting on Paul Craig fights. And I said that in my breakdown this week. I said, I'm done. I don't care who he's fighting. I'm done betting Paul Craig fights. So yeah, for me, this is a pass, but gun to your head, if you're going to bet it, strong lean one way, bet inside the distance.
See, how about you?
Pass.
Quinn?
Yeah, so I like Ontogulov here. I mean, I think he's like just the much better MMA fighter. And I questioned whether his gas tank issues was actually a thing, and then you had sent me a couple of his regional tapes, and I was like, oh, okay. His gas tank issue is a really big concern here. I was originally looking at playing Ontogulov wins in round 1 to 2 at like plus 220. But yeah, like I've touched on in the previous pods, I'm not down to playing guys with gas tank issues here. I do think he probably gets Craig out of there in the first couple of rounds. But I think if you're going to play this, I think it's more of a live betting fight here. I mean, really, like just see how Craig survives after round 1 or like midway through, and then bet it then. I mean, I just really think this is like a really, really solid live betting fight here, especially since the line is pretty close. And like Lag said, you can't play Craig as a favorite. Like you just can't. I mean, the guy's a goddamn flop. So yeah, like the pick is gonna be Ontogulov. Yeah, I'm just gonna probably look to live bet this.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Craig round 3 sub is plus 1,000, which I mean, I don't know. I feel like I'm grasping for straws here.
Yeah, I was
dicey.
trying to find an angle for Paul Craig, and like I touched on, both guys to win in round 1 or round 2 are plus 220 on FanDuel.
Yeah.
So
I could just bet them both. Yeah.
Right.
That's
Might be a nice hedge.
Yeah, it's not horrible.
Yeah, you could.
So anyway, we'll move on. So up next, we have a fight that I do have an investment in. I got a horrible line in hindsight. I have 2 units on – it's Carlos Esparza and Marina Rodriguez. I have 2 units on Esparza plus 135. Pretty much – so, like, I'm not going to go into it, but I've heard a couple people this week be like, Carlos Esparza is not a great wrestler. It's like there's 2 separate things here. There's a difference between wrestling and grappling. First of all, like, wrestling and ability to secure takedowns, Carla's actually very, very good at. Grappling, obviously not as much, but I do sort of think this narrative that she's really poor at advancing positions being perhaps a little bit overstated, in particular when it comes to this particular matchup. Like, look at the girls that Carla is fighting here. Grasso, Herbert, Gendrova, one of the best grapplers in the division, Suarez, Gadeja, Calvillo, Moroz, Marcos, Lima. I mean, all of these girls are – not all of them, but most of them are pretty competent defensive grapplers. And so it's like I agree, Carla's not some monster on top who's just going to go cut through everybody's guard with ease. But we're talking about the step down to Marina Rodriguez here from a defensive grappling standpoint is massive. Like if you look at the Calvillo fight, she mounts her twice. Neither time did she really have to work for it. It was pretty effortless. Like, that is a dead giveaway. Now, Calvillo's got a better top game than that, but we've seen, like, if you go back to, like, Carla when she fought Rose the first time, took her down 5 times, passed her 6 times, eventually subbed her. Rose was very young, but very young Rose had much better jiu-jitsu and much better upper back than Marina Rodriguez. Like, levels better than Marina Rodriguez is. And so it's like, I think the idea that, if Carla gets her down, she won't do anything with the takedown is being a bit overstated here. It's like we're talking about, a girl who's officially a blue belt, but who has at least to date looked like a white belt off her back. It's like the only time I've seen her effectively get up is kind of when she caught the underhook on the way down. And yeah, I think obviously if Carla can't secure takedowns with any consistency, Marina's going to shit on her and probably finish her, to be honest. I just don't like, unless Marina's going to play stick and move like Watterson did, but that's not her game. I think Carla's going to find takedowns here, and I think she's going to advance position in this fight, to be honest. I actually took a stab at Esparza for 0.6 units by sub plus 1,800, and I have 2 units on the plus 135. I personally capped her as a slight favorite just because if you're going to give me a girl with the potential to land 5 to 8 takedowns against a girl who can't really grapple at plus money, like I kind of feel like I have to take it here. I may end up that Rodriguez has made improvements or that she can just use her range and stay away and I look like an idiot, but I'm kind of fine with that, taking that shot. Luke, how about you?
Yeah, I'm kind of in your same boat too, John. I'll keep it brief. I guess my big thing is we just really have not seen any overt improvements from Marina Rodriguez in her game. I've heard a couple of people say, that we have seen improvements. I guess I don't know what tape they're watching because I personally haven't seen it. I mean, we've seen her guard pass 12 times. Anytime someone's really tried to take her down, she's been taken down, hasn't been able to do much there. And then in turn, she's been, as John touched on, mounted. And one thing I'll give Rodriguez at least a slight bit of credit for, at least in terms of the Calvillo fight, she was able to re-grab half guard. But then right after that, it's kind of one of those jiu-jitsu things where, like, I don't sit there and claim to be some wizard. I just started doing it like a year ago, but I've watched a lot of it too, and just through MMA. And it seems like she's just kind of like phase one. She knows what to do at phase one. And after that, everything goes out the window. She does not know what to do after that. Like in the Calvillo fight, go back. She regards once. And then after that, Calvillo just steps back over to side control and then mounts her immediately within probably like 20 seconds. Like she doesn't have that step by step grappling in her head to really make those considerations. So I guess the point of contention that some people might make in terms of Marina is that, or I should say Esparza, she's historically not a girl who's going to sit there and pass and look for subs. She's kind of like a lay and pray type girl, but it's like, well, if she's fighting a girl in Rodriguez whose guard is so easy to pass, like she's going to pass it. She's going to pass it. She has no reason to sit in her guard because she can literally just push down on the leg and step over. That's all she has to do. And so then she can rain out strikes from there. But to your point, John, like, yeah, if this fight is on the feet, I do think Marina lights her up like a Christmas tree. I think the striking differential here is pretty strong, but when you're giving me like plus 150, kind of these decent dog odds against a girl who has not shown me that she has improved in any stretch of the imagination in terms of her grappling and her takedown defense, I don't know how people are laying chalk on Marina Rodriguez here. I think this is the definition of a dog or pass. Like, listen, if you want to pick Marina, that's cool. I'm fine. I personally think Marina actually has championship potential if she's able to shore up those grappling holes. She doesn't have to be she doesn't have to be a jiu-jitsu wizard. She can be Joanna. I mean, if she improves her takedown defense and largely stay upright and just piece people up, I think she does have elite level striking and compete with those girls, but there's nothing that's indicated that she's been able to stay upright, and you got a girl in Tatiana Suarez right at the top of Division 2. What would Tatiana Suarez do to Marina Rodriguez? So my thing is here, I don't understand the confidence of Marina. I think if you're playing her, I think you should be playing her inside the distance because there's no confidence that is shown that she can stuff takedowns or really do anything to effectively get back to her feet. So I haven't played this fight yet, largely because I think more Marina Rodriguez money is going to come in. Whether I agree or disagree with that or not, that's unfounded. But, I think I'm going to be able to get a better price on Carla than what there's currently at. So I'm going with Carla. Like, she could get sparked, but I think from a value perspective, it's 100% on Carla.
See, how about you?
Yeah, I think there's. I haven't really made a play on this, but I guess I'm somewhat indifferent. Like, I agree mostly on everything regarding Carla. I think Carla should, like, if this was like evens or like 55-45, I'd say okay. Yeah, I mean, like, you kind of have to, I guess, play Carla in the sense that she just has like grappling upside. I think there's some misconceptions about Carla's wrestling. She is a better wrestler than Marcos and Cynthia. I don't really know why that's even a debatable thing, but seems to be a hot take. But yeah, I mean, like, part of me thinks like, yeah, Marina can land. Like, look, I think if you're backing Marina, yeah, you should probably just play knockout because, like, basically it just means that she's, like, if she was to win a decision, it means that she's, either stuffing takedowns or she's keeping Carla at range. And if that's the case, over 15 minutes, Carla is going to get slept. I mean, Marina is a savage on the feet. But I'd also say that, like, in terms of like the comp to the JJ fight. I mean, it's just not even comparable. JJ has a better understanding of range than Marina does. Even versus Marcos in the third round, like you could see, she starts teeing off on Marcos, and Marcos is at the end of her punches, but then she just starts to close the distance, and Marcos is able to shoot pretty easily. Joanna really doesn't do that. She really keeps you at the end of her range. And Marina, I think, too many times she's looking to clinch and other things that just, allow you naturally to close the distance on her. So I think even, the range play, like I guess I somewhat see it, but yeah, I mean, it's not even comparable. I mean, Joanna has, elite defensive grappling. So, I mean, even her get-ups are always on point. So, yeah, and I think Marina is actually like a little bit older than I was thinking she was. Like, I was thinking she was like relatively young, but she's the same age as Carla, which is interesting.
Yeah, wow, 33. That's pretty surprising. So
right,
she's
so
probably not
evolving.
Grappling at this point. That's like
Yeah.
at this point in her career.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, at a certain age, like you're probably not evolving, after you've been doing this for 12 years or whatnot, and all of a sudden we just expect her to be evolving at 33.
Or at least like high levels, like big incremental jumps. Like you can't expect that.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. Actually, the draw is definitely cool. I think I like that.
Marina's third draw.
I was talking about it.
Yep. Yep.
That would be something if she got a third draw in 5 minutes. Quinn, what do you got for us here?
Yeah, so I have one unit on Carla Esparza at plus 150. I completely agree with you guys. I mean, like I had posted on my tweet, I mean, you're gonna give me a 39% probability on against someone like who can't defend takedowns or chain wrestling at all. Like that's just insane to me. Like I think this should be like an even money fight. I think Carla is like criminally underrated. I expect her to land. I expect her to attempt 12 to 14 takedowns here, and I expect her to land like quite a few of them. I mean, like if you watch Marina actually defend takedowns, especially up against the cage, she doesn't do what she needs to do. I mean, she grabs the overhook and then she frames so she can land her knees and her elbows in the clinch. I mean, that's fine, but if you're a good wrestler, you're gonna get your hands locked, and she's gonna get put on her butt. I mean. And like she hasn't really made the adjustments like in order for me to like justify like a even consider a play on Marina like, as a favorite here. Like I really think that Carla is getting underrated here in general. And and while I do think that Marina like kills her on the feet, like Carla's she's up to her boxing level too. I mean like that has to be like talked about here, but like just like the narratives and the line here is just absolutely insane. Like people are saying that like Calvillo is a better wrestler and Marcos is a better wrestler than Esparza, which is completely untrue. I mean, Calvillo might be like a better overall MMA grappler in terms of like grappling because of her jiu-jitsu, but like in terms of like attempting takedowns and actually having success with those takedowns, Carla is the second best wrestler in that division. I mean, that double leg is going to be there for her all day. I mean, Marina just stays way too heavy on her lead leg. And I agree with you, John. I think that the narrative that she can't just pass guard here is like completely overblown. I mean, there are blue belts and probably white belts at my gym that could probably pass Marina's guard. So like, yeah, I mean, I love this line on Esparza at plus 150, and I think Luke's right. I think this does get wider. So like if you want to maybe like wait a little bit longer to play her, I definitely think that is in play. But like I just don't really get the confidence when we haven't seen anything from Marina that shows us that she has improved anywhere in her grappling or any sort of like takedown defense here. So it was a pretty easy play for me here at plus 150, and so I'm pretty happy with it. Like I think Esparza definitely will win a decision here. So yeah, I've got Esparza by decision at a plus 151 unit.
Legs, how about you?
Yeah, I'll be a little brief here because I don't have much of a player, and I know I talked a little bit on throwing a little bit of money on the draw here, but I think this fight is very similar to the fight we had not too long ago with Brett Johns and Montel Jackson. That there's not a lot of tape on Montel Jackson that says that, okay, like what shows that he's like a competent defensive grappler. And similar to Marina here, that I think a lot of people just think that, oh, she's just going to be able to stuff the takedowns. And at paying the chalk minus 170, you're just kind of hoping that she's going to stick and move, which, like Lou touched on, it's not really her game. So I think this line's going to get a little wider. I think it's going to be like plus 165, plus 170 by fight time. So I'm just going to wait it out a little bit, but I don't really.
Like she frames like that's like, and she hasn't improved that at all. Like you need, like, in order to get yourself off the cage, you need to be swimming for underhooks. Like you need to be doing that. Like,
or at least
and real quick too, Quinn, I think it's important to note that Carla actually being smaller here actually favors her.
Help her, yeah.
Because when you're trying to frame someone off, it's because, well, one, they're right up in your grill.
Yeah.
And if you're framing because you can't dig underhooks.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can't dig underhooks in your framing, all she has to do is slip off that frame, slide down, try to clasp her legs, and she's dropping you down for a double. Like I've heard this like framing narrative that she's so good at framing. All right, that's great. What happens if Carla just slips under that? And she gets dumped on her butt. Is she getting up? No, she's not.
If you watch her fight with Calvillo, DC's actually laughing out loud when they're like, "Oh, is that how you teach takedown defense at your gym?" And he's like, "That's not
how we
she lacks fundamentals. At the end of the day, guys, she lacks fundamental grappling,
definitely
wrestling. Fundamentals are not there. They're not there.
Yeah.
So I guess the last thing I'll add on is I don't know how this is the definition of a dogger pass for me, for sure.
This is an even money fight. Like this should be evens. I don't understand. Like the MMA Twitter and just MMA community in general just loves Marina. And like I do agree, Luke. I think that Marina does have high upside. I think she is one of the best strikers in the division. If she had that elite level takedown defense, like she could probably contend for a title here. But I just like unless we see her like make these improvements in her defensive wrestling, like you can't be laying the chalk. You can't lay minus 170, minus 180. There's no way.
Yeah, agreed. So we move on to a fight that if it was booked 4 years ago would have been pretty damn exciting. We got Alex the Baller Gustafsson taking on Fabrizio Werdum. I see you have a play here. What do you got? See. Okay. Anybody else have a play here? See, Werdum, Gustafsson?
Yeah, I played Werdum.
Quinn, what do you got?
Talk about it a little bit.
Oh, I mean, Gus is. I think Gus probably should have like been a heavyweight like way earlier in his career. I mean, he's got like a pretty good size frame on him. I think he's like 6'5". Gus is, he's decent for light heavyweight, decent boxing. He kind of runs a little bit away from pressure or whatnot. I could just see him kind of, backing Werdum against the cage. Werdum grabs the tie clinch, grabs that plum, lands a trip takedown, and then that's pretty much it. So, sub round one is basically stealing here. I don't think there's like I think kind of Werdum versus Alexei is overblown somewhat. I mean, he did look like shit, but I mean, he did take some fucking bombs for 6 minutes. Not like the guy collapsed completely. And Gus, everyone who's faced Gus and taken him down has said the same thing, that he basically quits on the mat. And it's mostly true. I don't know that he's. I'd have to look at what exactly it is, but I'm pretty sure every time he's gotten taken down, he's ended the round on the ground, or has gotten finished, or at least that happens at like 70% clip or something, I think. There's a bunch of uncertain. How do you know what Gus looks like after? He could come out there and look like Werdum just did. Who knows? I have no problem taking a stab here on Werdum. I would play by sub or inside the distance before I play anything else. I think that's mostly his win condition.
Quinn, how about you?
Yeah, I completely agree with C here. I'm not running out of the window to bet Gus, especially after he lost me a fucking shit ton of money versus Smith. That was fucking bullshit. Fourth round, fucking goes belly down and then just gets subbed. I was so upset. I was so fucking pissed. I'm pretty sure I had like 4 units on Gus in that fight, and I was just, yeah. I mean, like, there's so many red flags with Gus. I mean, like, he retired, he's coming back, he's moving up in weight. I mean, he didn't look particularly great versus Smith at all. I mean, he started getting off on the striking, like, I guess, but like, like Smith was pretty much like, he was being very competitive with him there, which like really shocked me. I mean, I don't really know how you can like lay what is he, like a 3-1 favorite right now, like against Werdum?
Almost 4-1.
Yeah, I don't understand how you could be at all confident. Like if you're gonna play Gus, like maybe like KO or like by the decision prop. Like I just don't understand how you can like play that line straight. I love the Werdum sub line. I'm kind of like looking back over it to see like maybe if I'm gonna play it or not. Yeah, but like I don't know. I don't like Gus here, and like like Werdum, like he's coming off that layoff, and he didn't look good against like Olenek at all. But I don't know. I still think he has some of the best like grappling and jiu-jitsu in the heavyweight division, and like we all touched on, like Gus quits on the fucking mat, and like you cannot quit against fucking Werdum. I mean, you just can't. So the pick here is going to be Werdum. I might play him, I might not. But I don't understand how you can lay the fucking heavy chalk or put like Gus in a parlay here. Like that's just not smart betting with your money. So I'm gonna pick Werdum by sub first, second round. But yeah, I don't understand how you could even play Gus here.
Lags, how about you?
This is a pass for me, but I mean, I think it's actually going to be one of the more fun fights to watch. Hopefully, if Werdum doesn't get killed in the first round. But yeah, I mean, like you guys, I don't think that Gus should be minus 400 here for any reason. So hopefully that Werdum cashes and all these parlays go to shit.
Yeah, so I kind of have a different opinion. Like, look, don't get me wrong, I wouldn't play Gustafsson at all, but like in theory, Gustafsson should be a pretty good heavyweight. So like you look at him, he's only 30 years old right now? Like he's only like 30. He basically, he's huge. He's like, oh no, never mind. He's older than that. Sorry. But we're talking about he's 6'5", got a 79-inch reach. He's pretty active. He's pretty busy. He's got, a good amount of volume. He lands 4 significant strikes a minute. He's very movement based, and volume and movement is something you just don't classically see from heavyweights. And in addition to that, he's a pretty good defensive grappler. So theoretically, a motivated Gus, if he's motivated, should be able to win fights against most of the division, to be honest with you guys. As far as whether he quits, I'm not as sold on Gus being a quitter as everybody else is. He dealt with a lot of injuries.
Belly down versus Smith.
I don't think he quit against Smith, to be honest. He made a stupid decision going for a head and arm. What happened is he made a stupid decision going for a head and arm throw, and that's what happens when you do it to a black belt who ends up on your back. Like that's literally pretty much what happened. But regardless whether he did or not, I think looking at it, yeah. I mean, I see why Gus is favored here. This line's wide, but Werdum did look awful. All of this is to say that I do think there's like a somewhat, probably not a strong chance, but there's a chance that Werdum looking so bad last fight is at least somewhat related to, COVID times, somewhat is short notice. Everything was kind of in chaos. He's 42. It's first fight back off a big layoff. It's possible he comes out and outperforms, basically what he did last fight out. How much so, I'm not really sure. I do think the subline is not bad for Werdum. That's definitely his best win condition, and he could, he's good enough for jiu-jitsu that he could hit it just by, kind of Gus slipping on a banana peel and ending up in his guard like that. It's, but I don't know. I might take a stab at sub for Werdum, but I do think Gus profiles, if he's taking it seriously, a bit better than what people are kind of giving him credit for, to be honest. Luke, how about you?
Yeah, I'll take a page out of C's book. Pass.
All right, moving right along here. Excellent. We move on to the co-main event of the evening, and this is a bit of a shit show. Another fight amongst dinosaurs. We have Mauricio Shogun Hua and Rogerio Little Nog Nogueira. Anybody want to take a crack at this, Luke?
I'll take a page out of C's book. Pass.
See, do you want to take a crack at this?
Yeah, I'm on the pass game here.
Quinn?
Yeah.
Pass life.
Lags?
I'll forward that. I will also pass. And I
will
save
not.
your money.
I did.
Of course you won't pass.
I did tape this fight, but yeah, pretty much. Like, I can't bet this fight. I think Nogueira is probably. I know for not passing, but I think Nogueira is probably the value side. I wouldn't lay money with Shogun. The problem at the end of the day is really Nogueira. Maybe he is less shot, but he's 44, and so it's he's literally now redlining so hard that he hasn't fought in a year. The guy could just show up with literally no knees and just get killed immediately. So yeah, it's a pass fight. But maybe it'll be mildly entertaining. And so anyway, we'll move on to the main event. We got Robert Whittaker against Darren Till. And I have a 2.5 unit play on Whittaker here at minus 125. Line dropped below that for a bit. Now it seems like it's coming back out. And so I talked a bit earlier about Trinaldo and how Trinaldo is a bit his volume's a bit underrated because he's a counterpuncher. And I've seen people kind of try to use the same argument with Till. And Till is the kind of guy who actually is low volume. If you look at Till's career, he gets out attempted dramatically by everybody. He gets outlanded by most of the guys he fights. He has literally never in his career landed more than 49 significant strikes in a fight. And that includes a 5-round fight against Wonderboy Thompson where he landed 38 strikes. On the other side, you have Whittaker, where it seems like he's a volume machine. He's got power. It seems like the biggest narrative I'm hearing is, maybe Whittaker's done. And I did somewhat take that into my capping. But if you actually go back to the 2 fights with Romero, he only the first fight, he only takes 48 strikes. He's never really put in any danger. He hurts his knee, but that's it. Second fight, he has 2 rounds where he gets demolished. But that's really it. Yeah, he got knocked out by Adesanya, but he didn't look bad in the first round of that fight before the knockdown. And so it's I kind of think this narrative that, Whittaker's been through too many wars, to be competitive here is kind of ridiculous. And it's kind of based off of one fight where he took a serious amount of damage. And he won that fight, by the way. I don't know. I just sort of think people are definitely, especially at 29 years old, that this guy's not hitting an athletic clip at 29, even if his chin is going, and he is the better athlete here. And it's I feel like Whittaker is going to reliably outland Till. I think we want to talk about Chinny. Darren Till got put out cold by Jorge Masvidal. He got hurt real bad against Woodley. He's been dropped in other fights in his career. I think I frankly think Whittaker probably has better durability than Till does. I'm confident he's going to outland him. I'm confident he's the better athlete. And the only other narrative that I've seen with Till is that he's this counterpuncher, and it's just not really true. If you actually watch Till, he's not low volume because he's a counterpuncher. He tries to pick perfect shots. And so the idea, he could land a shot on Whittaker coming in, but he definitely could. I just think the idea that he's number one, given to knock him out if it happens, is kind of foolish. And number two, again, Till kind of likes to be on the front foot. If you actually look at him, he likes to be on the front foot and try to pick his spots. When you saw Masvidal after he got dropped and kind of got his bearings back, but halfway through round 1 started coming forward, he started lighting him up. There was no counterpunching. Till does this weird thing where he likes to push off if you blitz him forward and leaves himself wide open. That's kind of how he got knocked out in that fight. And I kind of think you're going to see a lot of that in this fight, with Whittaker kind of just basically landing cleanly every time he blitzes in. So, yeah, I think this line's pretty badly off. If it weren't for at least some concerns about Whittaker's headspace, I'd have a lot more on it than I do. But like I said, I think Whittaker's a given to land the higher volume here over 5 rounds if it goes that far. I think Whittaker's finishing upside is quite a bit higher than Till's is. So yeah, I have 2.5 units on Whittaker minus 125. Luke, you got anything here?
So no play for me here. I guess my biggest point of contention, necessarily not disagreeing with you. I'm picking Whittaker as well. I think if Whittaker gets plus money, it's probably something I'm going to play here. But my biggest thing is that I just don't know where the guy's headspace is at personally. And the big thing in this particular matchup is I don't know what his game plan is coming in, because if he tries to kind of go overtly aggressive that he's kind of done over the course of his career, I feel like Till can catch him at some point. But at the same time, if Rob kind of makes those adjustments, he can fight from the outside. He can land those kicks, mix in the takedowns, which he actually did say in one of his interviews, that he's going to look to wrestle here. I know Till has shown historically really good takedown defense, but I think if Rob can actually mix in the wrestling, whether he gets those takedowns or not, but, mix them in at least in terms of the clinch, get him to the fence, steal some seconds and some minutes there, I think it's solid for Rob. So I guess I'm not running to the window to bet Rob here, because I do think Till poses some potential threats to him here, but if you give me that right number on Rob, I'm definitely going to be pulling the trigger again, because I do think he is the better fighter over the course of 5 rounds, especially if it goes there, because I largely think Till is KO or bust. I've heard a couple of people saying that, Till can win this fight over 5 rounds, but there's nothing that really indicates that to me, unless he drops or hurts Rob multiple times and Rob survives. And I mean, whether you watch tape or you don't watch tape or you mix them together, stats say that Rob's going to win this fight over the course of 5 rounds, and the overall tape is going to show that Rob wins this course over the 5 rounds. So to me, it's probably Rob, but it's just not enough value, because Rob's just still a bit of a question mark to me. But hopefully more Till money comes in and I'll take it. But that's just me.
See, how about you?
Yeah, I got 4 units on Whittaker. I guess I'm more confident, I guess, than some people. Originally, when it came out, I was thinking, there's no way I could trust Bobby here. But then I kind of just thought about things, and I don't really want narratives to really impact what I see. So I think there are some valid things, I guess, in terms of where Bobby's headspace is, but I guess in this case, look, there's no fans at this event. He's kind of in a mellow environment, right, where there's really just not the same amount of pressure as a normal fight, or at least the anxiety that can lead up to it. But in terms of just, I guess, the overall tape, Whittaker is actually better at every single aspect of mixed martial arts than Darren Till. Striking, grappling. I think people have really weird misconceptions about Darren Till as a striker. But he's not a counter striker. First off, it's probably one of the biggest misconceptions of Darren Till's game. But he does not live off the counter or anything like that. Secondly, Darren Till really mostly makes his bread and butter just moving forward. He struggles moving backwards. John, you kind of talked about how he's heavy on his lead foot. So what Whittaker does well is he kind of throws that low side teep to your front leg, and someone versus Izzy, it's a little bit less effective because Izzy slides in and out of range pretty well. He shifts, and Till never shifts. He's always heavy on that lead leg. And if you watch the Masvidal fight, if you watch where Masvidal had a ton of success, it's actually when he's closing the distance and throwing that overhand. And basically, Whittaker, what does he do? He blitzes in, he throws that overhand, and Till, because he has essentially, in the pocket, he's defensively liable. And just in general, he's pretty much liability defensively because he stands up straight. He's kind of got that tall man defense like James Vick, where like it's not necessarily, something I guess that I'd call like chin related. I think it's more defensive, related than anything. But yeah, I mean, he's gotten dropped a few times. So I actually think Whittaker, he's going to actually have, in my opinion, a ton of success with his blitzes. He's got a more crisp jab, faster hands, bigger power. And I just kind of struggle to see like what Darren's going to do here outside of, the chance that Whittaker's completely shot. But, I just don't, I just have a hard time believing that's the case. And I've been saying it in the group, but yeah, I'm going to stab this Whittaker by sub. I know it's, unlikely, but I mean, the guy has talked about, wrestling. Like he basically knows that, Till's a fish on the ground. And Whittaker, I don't have any evidence of this, but, he's pretty like highly regarded, I guess, in Australia in terms of, his jiu-jitsu. I think he's like a brown belt. He seems like he's got a pretty deep understanding of grappling. So yeah, I mean, if he comes out here and grapples and looks like Damian Maia, I'm not going to be surprised personally. But yeah, I think there's people that want to stretch value on Till and making it seem like he's a better striker than he really is. So yeah, I mean, I would definitely go back and watch like the Masvidal fight. Look at the adjustments he made. Kind of look how when he blitz in and throws that overhand, how it's Till's chin's just wide, like right there. And I think the Izzy fight is also causing people like monster concern about Whittaker. But if you actually watch Izzy fight, I mean, Izzy has like an 81-inch reach, and he rolls and he slides in and out of range really well. So, when you're someone like Rob and you're trying to blitz in on that, just Izzy has a better understanding of defense in the pocket and just in general. So he is able to just counter Rob twice, those two big counters. But, Whittaker before those counters, it's not like he was getting really outstruck or anything. It was actually pretty relatively close fight outside of those two big counters. So, yeah, I'm less worried in Rob than, the majority of the population here.
Yeah, Whittaker was even money against Israel Adesanya, and now he's even money against Darren Till. Quinn, what do you got here?
Yeah, he just destroyed the breakdown here, so I don't know how much more I can add. Pretty much, like I think, I personally love Darren Till. I think I've always just been a fan of his, and I think that's kind of like what's driving the line. I think that he just has an extreme like cult type following. If you look at the stats, like I mean, like his striking ratio it's pretty bad. I mean, he gets hit more than he lands. And like you guys all touched on, like Rob, like he's just such a better fighter, like in all aspects of the game here. I mean, like I think this line's really driving like, oh, like is Rob gonna come in here? Is he gonna be ready to fight? Is he gonna be able to take Till's like left hand and like like I don't get how you can like line the fight at evens based off of those fear of narratives. I mean, like Till isn't like literally like KO bust here. I mean, he's not going to be grappling Whittaker. He's not going to be outstriking him on the feet at all. I mean, Whittaker lands like serious volume, and he's like, in my opinion, like just such a better striker here. So like, yeah, I don't really understand the line. I think we're getting like massive value here on Whittaker, and I might even add a little bit more come fight time. Like I was like shocked. Like this morning, Till was up at like -120 on my local book, and Whittaker was at -105, and I was like, what? Are we gonna get Whittaker here at plus money? I mean, like this is nuts. So yeah, like I don't know. Like if you got Till at like plus 150, like I guess you're getting a good line here, but like overall, I don't really understand like how are you playing Till here? Like why are you playing Till here? Like I think that Whittaker's Whittaker's he's overblown. Like his chin issues are pretty overblown. I mean he went 5 rounds with the one of the scariest motherfuckers in the whole world, like one of the hardest hitters like Romero. And you can talk about like, oh, he won the first fight, he lost the second fight, won the second fight, lost the first fight. I don't know. I personally think that Romero would fucking dig Till into the dirt and destroy him. So yeah, I really like Whittaker. I think we're getting a fantastic line on him here, and I got him 1.5 units at -115, and I love it. So yeah, I think he probably puts Till out in the later rounds. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Whittaker here.
Lags, what do you got for us?
Yeah, so I'll continue what Quinn said. I don't necessarily have a problem with people playing Till here, but I guess I have a problem with people playing Till at even money. So that would basically assume that if this goes 5 rounds, that you would expect him to outstrike him over the course of the decision. So I don't, like you touched on, John, I don't see that narrative. And then I guess as B. Cole touched on in the chat, I honestly think Rob is live for a knockout here. I played 1 unit, fight ends in knockout at -105, and I, like everybody pretty much touched on, Till leaves himself very open. He has that tall man's defense, and he just leaves his hands wide open. I think that Rob is gonna have more success blitzing him in this fight because, like we touched on, in that Izzy fight, he was at a 6.5-inch reach disadvantage. So clearly, blitzing Izzy was not the smartest game plan. So I think he's gonna have more success here. But my pick is Rob. But I'm not picking a side here, and I'm rooting for Rob for sure to get the bounce back.
Yeah, agreed. So I think we're all in agreement there. Yeah, so that's anybody have any Lambo parlays today, or
No,
Maybe
no.
I'll come up with one.
this
Maybe
one?
I'll throw the Marina draw in there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
we're
gonna
doing
put
round
it on
1
Twitter.
and Whittaker round 1 subs.
What was that thing?
Whittaker and Werdum round 1 subs. Just take both.
That is the actual Lambo parlay.
That is the Lambo.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for stopping by tonight. We will be back next Wednesday, and we will be looking forward to that card, which is going to be now. Derek,
Can we do Thursday?
we can talk about it offline. We'll be back either next Wednesday or Thursday. But we will be back, and that main event will be Edmund Shahbazi and Derek Brunson. Fun fight. Have a couple bets out there. 3-rounder. Yeah. Fucking bullshit.
Bullshit.
But yeah, anyway, thanks for joining us tonight, guys. Really appreciate it. Let's enjoy the card this weekend. I'm your host, John Stargarian. You can find me on Twitter at MMA Fox. You can find Luke at SWR_betting, C at CHanson10, Quinn at Orthodox1993, and Lags at Lags_the Capper. Thanks for coming out, guys. Take it easy.